For the final word in sports all across the state, you're listening to Sports Talk with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. You've been waiting all day, so join the show now by calling 800-956-7266.
Luckily, we've been on the road for a couple games, so hopefully being on the road isn't that big of a to us. The fact is that we're probably going on the road and it's Wofford times 3. That's probably what's going to be like. How are we going to handle that moment?
Win or lose, it doesn't change things. Last year we went down there and won, and it was great, and it was an unbelievable win for our team. But we couldn't hold it together all the way through the ACC season. If we win or lose tomorrow, the same will be true.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome into Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, on what will be a fabulous week here on Sports Talk. We kick it off tonight. We tip it off tonight. A little basketball jargon there as we move more into the basketball scene. Brawl coming up on Tuesday. That's right. I call it the basket brawl.
Corny.
When the baseball teams get together, you know what we call that?
A base brawl.
How did you know that?
Because it's the same kind of corny infinitive that you're using.
We don't use it for football, though we should. Well,
foot brawl?
No, you don't.
We can't use it for football because they actually did brawl in football a few years ago, so we don't want to do that.
Probably not kosher.
Anyway, big game tomorrow night up at Little John Coliseum. You heard from Frank Martin. You heard from Brad Brownell. The Tigers thought they'd be in the top 25 after beating Florida Saturday. Did not crack either of the top 25s, but they're knocking on the door, and, man, they look good.
They look very good. And to be brutally honest, Corn, that game was a steal on Saturday. They were down by 12 going into the final 5 minutes. They go on a 14-2 run to close the basketball game. They get great play out of Marquise Reed, who becomes the ACC Player of the Week with a season-high 22 points. Eli Thomas made some big plays down the stretch, and much to what we talked about coming into that game, they were able to use their strength inside and play just a little bit better than Florida's guards. They denied Chris Chiozza on that when they were down 3 with 4.4 seconds left. They fouled him, which I always love to see from coaches when they foul up 3 instead of those who decide to play it out. A very, very good strategy for Brad Brownell's club. They're 9-1 going into the South Carolina game. And, as we've talked about with Clemson over the last couple of years, they've had some good non-conference season against, again, questionable competition. This will be a real test for them going into an ACC season that people are expecting them to do more than they've done in the past.
Well, the key to Clemson, and I think it's great to see it psychologically, is Elijah Thomas was traded in the game because of Florida's defense collapsing on him. And he kind of shook that off. And as Mike Morgan told us, and he's correct because I've seen Florida a few times this year, when that 3 doesn't fall, it's fool's gold. They keep tossing it up and getting high rebounds. Clemson took those high rebounds, took them off the fast breaks, and was able to close the gap very quickly. And Florida then grew cold, and then Clemson's guards took control at the end of the ball game.
I'm curious to see the interest level from the Clemson fan in this basketball game because it's a weeknight. Both coaches have talked about the fact that it's a tough draw on a weeknight, but there really is no other place to put it, Corn. As being, if you play it earlier, then you risk the teams not necessarily being ready or being up to snuff. If you play it later, then you risk messing up your conference basketball season. This has to kind of be put in this particular spot in the schedule, and also the whole thing about wanting it to be on TV. You have to put it on a date where it's agreeable with the network. So it's a Tuesday night. It's on ESPN2. I hope the Clemson fans come out and see it. I hope Carolina fans who are in the area come out and see it as well, and I hope they provide a great environment for what should be a very evenly matched game tomorrow night.
It will be. It'll be filled up. 9,000 seats. That won't be hard. Students will be gone, but they'll have enough fans there to fill it up. 7 o'clock tip makes it more convenient. Your team being 9-1, the opponent being 8-2, and it being the Palmetto Basket Brawl for it all. I left that part out. The Palmetto Basket Brawl for it all. That should make it a hot tip. It should make it a great atmosphere, a great place to watch a game. And, towards Clemson, the home team, the way they're playing right now with quality wins over Ohio State on the road, Florida on a neutral court, South Carolina just hasn't played consistently good basketball, putting it all together game in and game out, struggling with their defense to play it the way that Frank Martin wants to play it. I still think the shooting, even though, as he pointed out in our last meeting with him, he was more pleased with the scoring total than he was concerned about the overall shooting numbers. It's still been very inconsistent. The point guard play has not been great. And Clemson, they have got guys that can score. They've got 5-6 guys who'll run out there at different positions, and you throw in the transfer Escara, who played for the first time Saturday. That gives them another able body.
Well,
it does.
I was about to say, when you talk about shooting, you don't look at South Carolina statistics about shooting. You look at rebounding and turnovers.
Right.
Because I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Frank Martin in his career is about 80% wins when his team shoot 44% or above. So when you look at it 43 or 44%, people say that shooting doesn't look that good. But you combine it with the defense he uses and his rebounding, that's a formula for success for Frank Martin.
But they haven't played good defense,
exactly,
and they haven't played clean offense. That's the problem. It's not about the fact that they're not scoring, because they are scoring about the same clip that they were last year. But they're giving the ball away on too many possessions. They should be winning the games that they've won by a wider margin. They've had really silly turnovers. They've had situations where they run very stagnant offense. They had a couple of spots in the game against Coastal where I remember they went about 2 or 3 minutes without a basket. Granted, Coastal had those same woes as well, and that was what led to the fact that Carolina pulled that game out. But too often we see them in an offensive possession where they don't know what they're supposed to be doing, and they don't have a guy who can take it at a clock or late in games where you can put it in that guy's hand and know you're getting 2 points.
I think it's going to be a good ball game. It really should be. The only common denominator between the two thus far is Temple. Over the weekend, I saw where the team that beat South Carolina down in Coastal, Illinois State, won a big game.
At Ole Miss.
And UMass won a impressive game as well against a bigger opponent. I can't remember who, but I saw they beat somebody. That helped South Carolina. South Carolina now 40 in the RPI today. Clemson 31 in the official NCAA RPI out today, but neither in the top 25.
They beat Georgia.
It was Georgia.
Well, we've suggested this before. Florida and Florida State has tried it, Corn, but for whatever reason they passed on it. And that was, they played their rivalry game the Friday night before they played the football game the next day at the same venue. South Carolina and Clemson schedules don't sync up that way.
No.
Unless somebody bites the bullet and say, let's play the game in Greenville on a neutral court, then switch it so whoever has the football game that year plays the basketball game on that Friday night. They've never tried that before.
I think it is a shame in that, think about it, the football game's played over Thanksgiving holiday.
Right.
A lot of students who don't live around the campuses are gone. The basketball game is played in December during the holiday break. Students are gone. And the baseball series is played in early March, but that's not so much a student thing as it is just the baseball
Community
fans thing.
yeah.
You know, I don't know why you look at South Carolina's schedule, for example. January 27th, they've got a game against Texas Tech.
That's part of the SEC Big 12 Challenge.
Right. But I mean, I don't know. That would be, you would think, a better time to play that game in terms of being able to get your students involved. But then again, maybe you don't want to play it right in the heart of your league schedule. But they don't mind throwing that game in there.
Yeah, well, that's another TV type deal with those two conferences. They don't want to take away from the conference schedule, and that's one thing where with the SEC Big 12 Challenge, they have all of those games on the singular day, so they actually take that time out of the conference schedule to put all those games on that day and turn it into a TV-wide event. I can see the reasoning why it's put here, and there are other non-conference rivalries that kind of get played around this time. I know Missouri-Illinois is always played around this time of year, and that's a non-conference rivalry, a neutral site contest. So it's not uncommon, but like you said, it just doesn't seem like there really is a perfect date other than maybe doing it on the same weekend as a football weekend. But as Pro said, the schedules don't sync up.
All right, you know that it is National Signing Week. The first time we have a National Signing Day in football. Keep in mind now, going back many years ago, you used to be able to sign practically any time you were ready to, but now they have a stipulated early signing day beginning on Wednesday. And we'll catch you up to date on everything that we have learned today. A complete recruiting report coming up. We'll tell you which guys are signing on Wednesday that we know about and what time they will sign. Give you more details on that coming up. Be right back.
Sports Talk is the sports talk show of Main Street, South Carolina. From the coast to the mountains, we cover it all.
Good to have everybody together tonight. Phil Kornblut, Will Pelagic, the birthday boy, Tom Hayes. Right?
Mm-mm.
When is it?
Keep counting.
It's DSD. He's got
It's
the
on
same.
the signing day.
Wednesday. Well, it is Larry Bird's birthday today. Happy birthday. Male that I have publicly stated I would marry Larry Bird.
Happy Bird Day.
Oh, it's so good. That's kind of like basketball.
That's kind of just as corny as
I
basketball.
like that. Yeah,
Well,
Larry
Bird's
Bird,
day- Bird's
61
day was
today.
yesterday.
Sounds just as idiotic.
Thought it was today.
2 touchdowns.
Oh.
Talking about Demir Bird.
Oh, wow. Your boy going at you like that. That's friendly fire over there.
There goes your present. Forget it.
Man.
And Brian Leonard, who doesn't have a birthday coming up anytime soon. Do
But
you, Brian?
he knows also true well about the NFL's adjudication of the catch rule not working out in his team's favor this weekend as well.
Absolutely. But I tell you, the officials this week, they were too much of the show. Too much of the show. We'll talk about all that coming up. Mick Mixon will be here in the last part of the program. What about the Panthers? God, you talk about a whirlwind 36 hours for them. We'll talk about that.
Very bad.
I want to touch on recruiting, though, because it is the week of the early signing period. And much like National Signing Day in February 7th, those who have not made a decision publicly but have decided to sign early will be doing so on Wednesday. And, of course, there's a few people out there that have South Carolina and Clemson still on hold, guys like Jarrett Jackson, KJ Henry, Cade Mays, Lynn J. Dixon, Jamari Sawyer, Javon Gwynn, Rozondo Lewis, possibly J.C. Horn, possibly Channing Asante Samuel, people that South Carolina, Clemson have been recruiting. They have a chance at them, one or the other. In the case of Henry, both are involved, and we will find out on Wednesday what they're going to do. In the case of Horn and Tyndall, we don't know for sure if they're going to be signing on Wednesday. This is why this early signing period is kind of a double decision for some. They can't decide if they want to sign early, and then if they're going to sign early, they have to decide who they're going to sign with.
Not to mention, and we talked about this a little bit at the end of last week, it'll be very interesting to see how either of the two teams or how both of the two teams kind of change their approach over the last 2 months, because, you know, you have the dead period right after that, and you wonder how you're able to kind of make up any kind of ground with guys who you might not get or try to replenish some of those spots that might not get filled if you, say, with these in-between guys, don't get one of those.
Yes, exactly. The dead period is in place until right before they go to official visits again, which is going to be January 12th.
Right.
So it's dead until then. Coaches, I don't know. Nick Saban is opposed to it, and he says most of the coaches he talks to are opposed to it as well. I think Will Muschamp, based on his comments, I'm trying to remember what Dabo Swinney had to say. I want to believe that they were okay with it because they like the idea of guys being locked in.
I think
if they want to go ahead and sign, locking them in and having them tucked away, you don't have to worry about recruiting them all the way to February.
From what I remember, I think Dabo likes that it's early. I just think that he doesn't like that there's multiple ones. I think he said you would want one or the other. That kind of thing.
But here is the thing you have to think about as a player now, because, this is December. You know what's going to happen. You've been recruited by a particular coach, by a particular coordinator. You sign with that school, and then he takes a job somewhere else.
Yes.
Or there's a change in the staff. For example, South Carolina is going to hire an offensive coordinator from somewhere, probably, unless they promote from within. And whoever that guy happens to be, if he happens to be working on another staff, he's been recruiting guys, and all of a sudden, it's too late. If you've already signed, they're not going to let you out of your LOI.
Regardless of whether they were promoted a guy from within or not, they still have to hire 2 assistants because you have the 10th assistant coming out at the end of the year. And so you're wondering who they could possibly poach from another program, possibly, if you get somebody who's highly regarded enough of that nature.
This is not breaking news by any means. I think everybody knew this, but I was talking with somebody who was out at practice at USC on Saturday and said Bobby Bentley was coaching up quarterbacks. Yeah. And this person said he was doing he is a quarterback's coach. That is where he should be. And I think if if Muschamp is smart, he would make Bentley the quarterback's coach, maybe even the offensive coordinator. We'll see how McClendon does calling the plays and running the offense here for the weeks leading up to the bowl game and the bowl game itself. Maybe he'll be good enough, and maybe his style will work. The one thing that I was told about the practice from this person, it was very. They were going up tempo almost the entire time. It was a much faster tempo than what they were running under Roper.
Phil, I was thinking of this this weekend when we were talking about offensive coordinator, in that I'm not thinking so much as what Will Muschamp wants as what Muschamp wants to work, and that is he came in here saying, "Who is the recruiting coordinator? I'm the recruiting coordinator." Two of his best recruiters on that staff are the guys who will be running the offense for the bowl game. I think he wants it to work, because if it works, that means both of his two of his best recruiters are happy with what they're doing, and they're higher running backs coach and the 10th coach.
Here's my only issue with what's going on. And I know that you're very much championing the Bobby Bentley for offensive coordinator. You're almost kind of like his political running mate.
Well, no, not necessarily. But I think if you're not going to hire Kevin Sullivan, then hire Bobby Bentley.
Well, I don't know why they don't.
That's my position on the position.
I don't know why they're not using Bobby Bentley as the coordinator in the bowl game if they're going to hire him at the end of this whole process. If you're going to hire anybody in this whole process, you hire the guy who's coaching in the bowl game.
Well, I'm not,
I don't see how they go promote within if it's not anybody other than Brian McClendon.
Not too many people are talking about him as the offensive coordinator, as a candidate. And it might be because his son is the quarterback. I don't know. That could create some.
I've told you that's the problem.
Some issues there. I could see that. But let me say this. Jake Bentley has nothing to worry about moving forward when it comes to his job at South Carolina, as long as he continues to play at a decent level, because DeCarrion Joyner is not going to be ready, I don't think. Now, I only saw him in this one game.
He was hurt.
Shoulder was bothering him some, no doubt. But even during the week, from people I talked to, I was out there one day, his passing has got to have a lot of work. He's got to come a long way as a thrower to be able to be the complete quarterback that you want, that you need to win the SEC.
Well, I'll tell you this. The next offensive coordinator has to get the full output of Jake Bentley, because I don't think we saw the full output of Jake Bentley's skill set with Kurt Roper.
What more would you want to see? What more can you see?
I'd like to see more accurate throws. I would like to see, more, like you were talking about before, a lot more of an up-tempo style.
I think you'll see that.
I think, honestly, and I hate to draw parallels inside the conference, but South Carolina's offense really should have looked a lot like what Missouri's offense was the last 6 weeks of the season. They have, I think, equitable, if not better, receivers. I think they had probably an equitable offensive line. I don't think the quarterback at Missouri is better than the quarterback at South Carolina, but I think the quarterback at South Carolina is good enough to make the same kinds of throws and plays that they were doing there with the Tigers in the final 6 weeks of the season.
I will say this. You'll have three receivers who at least will have a year under their belt. Remember, they were playing with a lot of true freshman receivers. If this Van kid is as good as they think he is, you got potentially, with Davis, maybe 3 to 4 guys who potentially can blow the top off of the defense and utilize those big receivers they have. Now, the key is who plugs in at tight end.
That's the other part.
But obviously, the health of Deebo Samuel will do a lot for everybody on that offense, including the running game.
Listen, Hayden Hurst had probably better results and better stats at tight end than anybody in the conference did, and he was still underutilized. Yeah. And that's the problem that I think, again, it stands to reason that they could have gotten a lot more out of this offense with the personnel that they had, despite what they lost due to injury. And I think part of that is due to the coordinator.
Well, I think, too, when you're talking about tight end, losing Hayden Hurst will be big, but I think Casey Crosby will come back and give them a quality receiver at that position. And they have other tight ends waiting in the wings as well. But Casey Crosby is a veteran guy who has shown he can make the tough catch out there when given the opportunity.
Have to protect better, too.
Okay, we'll be back 800-956-7266 if you want to join us. Sports Talk on a Monday night. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk Monday night from downtown Columbia, 800-956-7266. Our email, talkback at sportstalksc.com, on Twitter at SportsTalkSC. We'll try to hit up some of your Twitter comments and email as well, plus your phone calls if you want to join us. Brad Brownell, Frank Martin coming up. We'll have Aaron Lucas with us tonight after the top of the hour to preview from a Gamecock side of things the basket brawl tomorrow night at Little John. Jordan Roper not able to meet up with us tonight. He will meet up with us on Wednesday. He'll do the looking back, and Aaron will do the looking forward.
You're going to get fined every time you say the word basket brawl.
We'll hear from Shrine Bowl coach David Gutschall. Not a good performance at all by the Sandlappers. After, it was nip and tuck for the first quarter or so. It was trading one touchdown after another between the two of them, and then a 3-touchdown run by the Tar Heels. Put it away. They had a kickoff return that turned everything their way. Sandlappers, Joyner wasn't able to play the second half, and that hurt them some. But being behind, I think they were going to go more with Sam Hartman anyway because he was the passing quarterback. Mm-hmm. Bryce Thompson's a player, people. Boy, I tell you what, I as little as I know about player personnel and talent and all that, it doesn't take a wise man to see that cat's got to have the football in his hands.
I didn't watch the game as much as you did, but I caught a little bit of it on the ESPN3, and he just looks like a different cat, man.
He's just a talent.
But the problem, football player.
You know who else is a talent? I just don't understand it. I mean, it's none of my business. I question things. That's what I do for a living, and I wonder about things. But Dax Holyfield, I mean, the kid is just maybe he's too. Maybe South Carolina thinks he's too slow. Or something. I don't know. There's nothing wrong with his shoulder. In fact, his dad came up to me. His dad's a coach and played at Wake Forest. I'd never met him. We'd never spoken before in our lives. But he knew who I was. And I was talking to Dax afterwards. And he said, let me tell you something. He goes, this kid has started 64 consecutive games in high school. That's a record. Okay. And there is nothing wrong with his shoulder. And he said, I don't know where that stuff came from. And Dak said South Carolina was in his top 3 going into his official visit. Now, I don't know what happened. But look, he's moved on. They've moved on. They must think they're getting somebody better. But he just looks like a football. He looks like I don't know which version of Rocky. I think it's Rocky 3. Which one did he fight the German?
You mean the Russian?
The Russian?
Was it a Russian? Yeah, it was a Russian.
Yes,
Russian.
Yeah.
Yeah, he looks like him. He looks like the Russian.
He headed to Stanford. I always hear
he's Stanford, Virginia Tech, North Carolina.
Here's the difference.
I'm talking chiseled. You know, Rock'em Sock'em. Yes. Remember Rock'em Sock'em?
Yes.
Robot.
He looks like the Rock'em Sock'em guy. That's the kind of physique and chin this guy has.
Here's the sad part about what happened in the Shrine Bowl. You could probably argue that South Carolina might have better skill position players than North Carolina. But in the trenches is where they won that football game. Their offensive line, studly. That defensive line, very creative and very opportunistic. They had no chance.
Yeah, it was a tough matchup. And, that's 3 in a row for North Carolina in the series. First time since 49, 50, 51 that North Carolina's won 3 in a row.
You're not supposed to lose 3 times in a row to North Carolina.
We still have the series lead, but it's shrinking. And next year, in terms of major college prospects in the state next year, it looks to be kind of lean for South Carolina.
Right. And your boy, your rival's high school coach gets to coach them next year, the Sandlappers.
Jackie Hayes.
Yes.
Well, if I know Jackie Hayes well enough, he'll find some players somewhere.
Yeah.
He'll find some players somewhere.
Yeah.
They'll be in good hands. Look, it's not – coaches can only do so much. It's you get 10 practices. Less than that. You get about 8 practices. And you can only do so much. And Coach Gutschall and their staff, his staff did everything they could. The team just didn't play very well.
They had some unfortunate injuries, too.
And he did make you'll hear his comments coming up. I kind of got the feeling, and he said it, not us, that some guys kind of threw their helmets in there once the game got away. I think their spirits got crushed and the effort level went down with some people. We'll hear from Dabo Sweeney as well. Continue with their practices. We'd love to bring you something from USC practice, but there's been no media availability. Won't be until Wednesday. which is kind of strange to have all these bowl practices going on and no availability to this point. But that's the world that we live in these days.
People, that's kind of what I wanted to make sure we said today is that, we're bringing you all this Clemson sound because we've had a lot of access to the folks at Clemson. And
you can't blame us.
Yeah. USC.
If they had something, we'd be there.
We'd be there.
Yeah. Let's see. A couple of other notes. We need to touch on the Panthers thing. We'll ask Nick about it coming up later on. But what a quick turn of events there. And now the Panthers will be for sale in no later than after the Super Bowl.
And not just that, but Jerry Richardson has gone from being a part of an internal investigation to going to sell the team to now not even being part of the day-to-day operations. They've named Tina Becker a chief operating officer and making her the day-to-day management head of the organization. She's only 32, so she becomes a very high-ranking, probably the highest-ranking young executive in basically professional sports and really the only woman who is at that point. So Carolina becomes a very big pioneer in that regard. But the problems that really arose, I don't know if you read the Sports Illustrated report over the weekend. It details some just not nice stuff from Mr. Richardson. And I'm telling you, this is one of the NFL's he was one of the NFL's pride points for a long time. He brought football to this area. He brought football to the Carolinas. And it's just a very drastic turn from somebody and a man who we had a very, very high opinion of. And that obviously has been called into question over the course of the last couple of days.
Yeah, and also the gravity of the fact that he was a former NFL player with the Baltimore Colts. But I
believe he's the first former player as an owner, was he not?
When I look at the leadership of this football team, as far as the team is concerned, with Ron Rivera and some of the team leaders you have on the field, including Thomas Davis, of course, the unfortunate hit yesterday, this team still has playoff implications and targets they can reach. And I don't think they're even worried. They can't worry about the front office right now. They're worrying about what they're going to do to get into the postseason.
That's a front office that's had to go over some real turnover. I mean, you think about what happened to Dave Gettleman and the Marty Herney thing. This is a complete overhaul of that front office.
It started when Danny Morrison unexpectedly resigned as president back in the summer. He now teaches a course at USC 2 days a week over in sports marketing. In fact, he said he will come in and be with us when school returns in the next semester. I ran into him at the Mike Ayers retirement press conference. But you don't know if that's connected to it or not. And I'm one who likes to kind of wait and let the investigation run its course and all the facts come out before I start condemning somebody. Pretty obvious this is the allegations are serious. The fact that there was a cover-up as well doesn't help.
No.
The fact that they bought off people, that probably as much as anything is bad.
It means they knew they were doing wrong.
Now that that's come to light, so it's most unfortunate. I happen to have been around in those years in the 90s when Mr. Richardson and his sons, in particular Mark, would caravan around the state speaking to anybody and anyone who would have their come in and talk about a possible NFL team for the Carolinas involving South Carolina and North Carolina. Remember that? They would, in fact, they used an advertising agency here in Columbia to help them in the state of South Carolina drum up the interest. And they knew that without the support of the state of South Carolina and being able to count on the population of the state of South Carolina and the television sets in the state of South Carolina, that they would not have a strong enough case to get an NFL team. So a lot of South Carolinians see at first, the thought was they were going to build the stadium in Rock Hill right on the state line.
Right.
They ended up building it in downtown Charlotte, which I had no problem with because they had the infrastructure there.
Yes.
All the various roads and the lines, all that was going to save them millions of dollars. Yeah. So that's what happened there, but that upset a number of South Carolinians who wanted the idea of the team being partially theirs.
Right.
And then even though they call it the Carolina Panthers, there's a lot of blue. Well, there's a lot of blue related to the Tar Heels, and that sort of rubs some people the wrong way too.
And about 3 years before they got the team, this Tennessee fan who lived in Charlotte said the team is going to be in downtown Charlotte. She said, I work in downtown Charlotte, and everybody's buying up a bunch of land. What do you think that's for? She was right.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you the Palmetto State flag still flies in that stadium. I was there a couple weeks ago. So.
Yeah, but it's mostly a Tar Heel thing, and that's fine with me. You can call it the Charlotte Panthers. I'm fine with that. Recruiting coming up in a moment.
I said the Kings. I said.
Now back to Sports Talk, South Carolina's most listened to sports talk show for more than 30 years.
Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Let's get you set for what's ahead in recruiting. Signing day coming up on Wednesday, as you know. Been tracking all the USC and Clemson targets and commitments over the last several days. Let's start with the overview of how things look moving ahead towards Wednesday. So, defensive end Jarrett Jackson a USC target, USC in Louisville. He'll announce at 1:30 on Wednesday. Defensive end KJ Henry, a USC and Clemson target, along with Georgia, Virginia Tech, and Alabama. Those are his final five. 4:20 on Wednesday. Cade Mays, offensive lineman, Clemson and Georgia, 2:30 on Wednesday. And depending on what message board you want to read, it could be either one. It seems like the Georgia people who write on the message boards are feeling more and more confident. I couldn't tell you. One thing we're going to do, we're not going to tell you if we don't know where a player is going. Not going to get into a guessing game or just a bunch of hearsay. And I'm going to tell you right now, on all these players that are in the wait and see category, I don't know where they're going. So I'm just going to tell you that up front. Lynn J. Dixon, running back, Clemson or Oklahoma State, took an official at Oklahoma State over the weekend. Tomorrow night at 8:45 for him. Talk more about him coming up. Jamari Sawyer, offensive lineman from Atlanta, 10 o'clock on Wednesday. Clemson or Georgia. Now, this one I will say, it certainly looks very strong for Georgia. He took an official to Georgia over the weekend, never took an official to Clemson. Decided, his coach told us on Friday he was going to wait till February 7th. Now he's going ahead to sign. It certainly looks like it will be Georgia. Javon Gwynn, Clemson or NC State, don't have a time for him on Wednesday, if indeed he's going to sign on Wednesday. We don't know that yet. Rosando Lewis, linebacker, USC or Florida State, 4 o'clock on Wednesday. Made his official to USC over the weekend. No feedback on that yet. His coach was one of those stuck in the Atlanta airport. He was on a plane on the tarmac for 3 hours yesterday. Not even sure he's made it back to West Palm Beach yet, or to actually, I think it's Fort Lauderdale. So don't know which way that one will fall. He's been committed to Florida State. USC's made a strong run. USC target offensive lineman Dylan Wonnum will not be signing Wednesday. J.C. Horn, defensive back, who was at USC Saturday to watch practice. Another unofficial for him. Don't know if he's signing on Wednesday. Don't know with whom. I would think USC would be in a decent position considering all the recent visits he's made to USC, but I don't know. Linebacker Channing Tindall of Spring Valley. Don't know if he's signing on Wednesday. Went to Georgia over the weekend for an official visit. Don't know. Asante Samuel, who's been committed to Florida State, and don't know a time on him for Wednesday either, or if he's signing on Wednesday. And from what I've been reading, it looks like Florida State may retain him at this particular point. So those are the main ones that we're following that have not made their decisions. As far as USC commitments, Jabari Ellis at 7:05. These are in the morning. Ernest Jones at 9. Maxwell Ayama, 12:45 p.m. Wyatt Campbell, 11. Kingsley, Ignagbar at 1:30. Deshaun Fenwick at 12:30. Jesus Gibbs at 3:30. Hank Manos will be at 7 o'clock in the morning over at Chapin. Israel Mukwamu, Friday at 3 o'clock. Darius Rush at 10. Levante Valentine at 10:30. Josh Vann has decided to sign Wednesday at 7 in the morning. Yesterday he wasn't sure. Coach tells us now he is sure. Don't have times on Tyquan Johnson, DeCarrion Joyner, R.J. Roderick, Tyreek Johnson. Now, not signing will be Ronnie Jameson, Bryce Thompson, and Lamarius Benson. Knew that. The Big Spur added that Jonathan Gibson and Marlon Character, other USC commitments, would not be signing on Wednesday. Now for Clemson, Braden Galloway at 12:45, Josh Belk at 8 in the morning, B.T. Potter and Darion Kendrick at 11, Trevor Lawrence 8, Jordan McFadden at 3:15, Xavier Thomas at 9, Justin Maskell will be at 7 in the morning on Wednesday for Clemson. Don't have times yet on Jake Venables, though he did tell me he will be signing on Wednesday, not at school, be a private family thing. Don't have a time for Kyler McMichael, Darnell Jeffries, or Mike Jones just yet. Trajan Jeffcoat from Irmo signing with Missouri.
One Columbia to the other.
At 7 o'clock. Time to talk him out of it if you want to try to save his career.
Oh, you're putting that on me. Don't put that on me.
All right, some other things. Mentioned Lynn J. Dixon went to Oklahoma State over the weekend. He said everything went good, enjoyed the visit, saw how they utilize their running backs. Last night, he said it's 50-50 between Clemson and Okie State. He said he enjoyed everything at Clemson the last time he went there, but he said this visit made the decision much harder. And so, decision tomorrow night. KJ Henry, we had a chance to talk with him after the Shrine Bowl. Of course, he and the family getting together over the next couple of nights to work this out. The father's future as a coach is also a factor in the decision-making process. I asked him after the game Saturday night, what do you say to all those people who say they know where you're going? And he says, I hear that a lot from a lot of different people. And my response is, I wish you would tell me where I'm going. I have no idea. If you know where I'm going, that's good. Tell me, because I have no idea. He's going to pull out a hat at 4:20. He's not telling the coaches in advance who it's going to be. Let's see. What else do we have
That's going
here?
to be on ESPNU,
On ESPNU, yes.
Okay.
2019 quarterback Garrett Schrader of Charlotte was among the prospects at USC Saturday, as was 2020 quarterback Ridge Jacobs of Jacksonville. Also, 2019 Quavaris Crouch of Charlotte. People are raving about him. 3,246 yards and 33 touchdowns, and as a linebacker, 51 tackles and 14 sacks.
Not bad.
Everybody wants him. He said it was great at USC, got to see the practice, talk to the players, family atmosphere, great coaches, really building something. He has named USC, Clemson, Alabama, Michigan, Stanford as his other favorites, his early favorites. His brother is signing with NC State, and his teammate is USC target Jovan Gwynn. Basketball, 6'9" DJ Burns of York Prep, 6'3" Trey McGowans of Wren and Hargrave Prep went to Tennessee yesterday for the North Carolina game. McGowans was also at NC State on Saturday. Back to football, defensive end Dorian Gerald set an official visit with Ole Miss for January. He's also got one set with Florida for an official visit. And of course, USC has been involved. Zion Keith, Xavier Thomas's teammate, the two of them are going to sign at 9 o'clock on Wednesday at Wilson High School in Florence, by the way. That's his old high school. And let's see here. I've covered everything. There's a couple of other things I want to mention as soon as I can scroll my way down to it.
There are worse places for Trajan Jeffcoat to go than Columbia, Missouri.
Where, name one.
Iowa State.
There's nothing wrong with Iowa State. Not a thing.
You ever been to Ames, Iowa? You ever been to Ames, Iowa?
It's a flyover spot.
I've been to Ames, Iowa. You do not want to go to Ames, Iowa.
Okay, I think that's it. I think I've covered everything now.
Well, you mentioned
Lawrence, Kansas.
You mentioned
I've been to Lawrence, Kansas. Very nice.
You
Terrible
mentioned
place.
Xavier Thomas signing, and maybe KJ Henry says Clemson tomorrow. That brings them that continued run against tremendous defensive linemen, this time at the end positions versus the tackles they have now. As far as South Carolina is concerned, quietly you see them building depth at offensive line with more athletic, potentially offensive tackles. You talked about protection. They need better protection. Hutchinson flashed some of that athletic ability last year when he was forced to play. Let's see how they do this year as far as
No Corey
protection is
Helms
concerned.
next year either.
No.
Well, as far as KJ Henry goes, when you think about it, Clemson's bringing in two big-time defensive ends. If he's looking at depth chart and availability, a little crowded at Clemson, not so crowded at USC if you go with those two factors. We'll be back. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, dun, dun.
Round 2 of Sports Talk up next with your hosts Phil Kornbluth, Will Pelagic, and the Professor Tom Hayes. Don't leave us hanging. Join the show, 800-956-7266.
Okay, we're back. It is Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. I knew there was something I left out of the recruiting report.
You forget something? That's possible. That's
Rick Sandage, defensive lineman from Concord, North Carolina, not signing, according to his coach this afternoon. That's pretty much been the position that Sandage has, though some had speculated that he might go ahead and sign, but according to his coach, he won't. Sandage has got 4 official visits lined up in January for the 4 visitation weekends in January, and he's planning on taking that. Though when I talked to him after the Shrine Bowl Saturday, he wasn't aware of the dates. Apparently his mom had passed those on to rivals. He was not aware of them, but the official visits will be to Georgia, North Carolina. South Carolina will get the final official visit, and the other official visit will be Michigan. So Georgia, North Carolina, Michigan, USC in that order.
It's a nice swath.
Plans to sign on Feb 7th. And again, he says no favorites. He knows a lot about the schools. He just wants to go and have a good time on the visits. His family have a good time, meet with the coaches. He does have a real good relationship, he said, with USC, with Muschamp and Lance Thompson and Bobby Bentley. He's not yet had his in-home with Muschamp. He's expecting that to happen in January. He was very good in the bowl game, in the Shrine Bowl game, with 5 tackles, including 2 tackles for loss and a sack. That's it in recruiting. Let's turn our attention to the basket brawl for it all tomorrow night up at Little John Coliseum.
They're playing basketball without that basketball. They're playing basketball without that basketball.
You look like such a dork when you do that.
Okay, we have one half of our give and go combination tonight. We'll have the other half to look back on the game Wednesday night. That'll be Jordan Roper. Right now it's the former Gamecock, Aaron Lucas. What do you recall about your trips to Little John Coliseum, and what can make it a tough place to play? Hang on, Aaron. Hang on a second. We have got one of the worst cell lines I've ever heard.
It's bad.
Let's call him back.
Is he on Clay Hendricks' phone?
I don't know. That was all garbled. Call him back if you would, Brian. And sounded like the line was just blown up. Sounded like the same line you get at the Atlanta airport right now.
Ooh, too soon.
That's terrible, isn't it?
The power is
I'd hate to be on a plane. Somebody told me yesterday that they had a friend who had flown into Atlanta, I guess right at the height of that thing, 10 hours on the plane.
It's not good.
On the tarmac, 10 hours.
When were you going to tell me the Knicks and Charlotte played tonight?
Who cares?
Oh, come on. You love basketball.
First of all, it's the Hornets, and even less than that, it's the Knicks.
Knicks have won 5 in a row.
Let's go to Aaron Lucas once again. Say something.
Is this better?
Much better. Much better. So, your experiences at Little John Coliseum, how were they?
It was actually the Larry Shyatt, Eddie Fogler kerfuffle, if you want to call it that, in the tunnel. So that kind of set the tone before and after the game. It's a small arena, so it's something that we were accustomed to at the time because we played in Frank McGuire Arena. But very tough place. The student section was right behind the goal, causing havoc, causing chaos and being loud. So it's a great atmosphere to play in. So I hope these guys embrace it.
I forgot about that little dust up. Did you see it? What happened?
We were actually heading into the tunnel. I can't remember if it was halftime or if it was at the beginning of the game. I think the coaches had a few words, and then the next thing, a couple of us had a couple words, and no punches were thrown, but there was some pushing and shoving, and they had to get everybody separated. So again, that kind of set the tone for the rivalry. And in 4 years, in my experience going 2-2, I think it was a good rivalry.
We talked
good, healthy for the program.
Yeah,
we talked about this a little bit last week, Aaron. Just Clemson's experience, I don't want to say it's necessarily an overwhelming advantage, but to me, I'd be concerned from a South Carolina perspective because not only do they have experienced guards, but you've seen Elijah Thomas kind of take some of those next steps. And not that you necessarily think that he is more accomplished than a Chris Silva, but I think they have enough ways to neutralize South Carolina's strengths in that regard.
Well, absolutely. I think their average experience as a team is 2 years. So they have guys who've had experience. They've got guys right now. They've got 4, I believe, playing over 30 minutes, have 5 averaging in double figures. So you're starting to see some of that experience transcend to the floor. And anytime you have experience in chemistry, you get results like what happened at Florida for them to pull out good victories. So they're playing well. So we have to be able to come in and execute and try to give them a loss.
The matchup that everybody looks at, it seems to me, Aaron, it's the guy who may or may not get into foul trouble, meaning Elijah Thomas or Chris Silva. Obviously, South Carolina has to have Chris Silva on the floor. How do you talk to about a big man, not only playing against a man his size who may be just as heavy, but also being on the road and trying to avoid foul trouble?
Well, I think at this point in time in Chris's career, he has to understand he's going to face these type of challenges playing against a guy like Elijah Thomas, who's starting coming to his own. Chris has to play with, he has to play with a lot of composure. He has to play utilizing some of the experiences that he's had in the past, obviously playing in the Final Four and some of the matchups that he's faced over the last year. I'm pretty sure Coach Martin and staff will put him in positions where he can try to alleviate some of those early fouls that, unfortunately we've seen him get.
Talking with Aaron Lucas, former Gamecock, one half of our give and go combination here on Sports Talk. So let's talk about the guards. Clemson's guards have been playing extremely well. I'm sure you watched the Florida game, neutral site the other day, and they can score. They don't play the greatest defense. I think maybe they're playing a little bit better defense overall this year, but you got a couple of guys. You've got Mitchell, who's the penetrator. You've got Reed, who can shoot from everywhere, and DeVoe, who's a terrific spot-up three-point shooter. How do you like the matchup there between Clemson's guards and South Carolina's guards? Where would you give the edge?
Right now, I would have to give the edge to Clemson. Again, you got guys that are playing 30-plus minutes a game, not turning the ball over very much. I think Mitchell was at a 2-to-1 ratio right now, so almost a 3-to-1 ratio. So he's been doing a good job of executing and running what Coach Brownell has been, putting in place. You saw a little bit of that against Florida. He was able to keep his composure and then kind of put them in the right spot. So right now, based on that experience, based on, seeing how many minutes those guys are averaging on the floor, I would have to give the edge in the backcourt to the Tigers. We know how basketball works. I mean, the conference slate's coming up, and it's all about what happens really February and March. And like the coaches will say, this game is not going to define our season. Last year Clemson came to USC and won, but certainly as an alum of USC, a former player, this is a game these basketball players very much want to win to have the state bragging rights, just like the football players. Absolutely. Again, one of my closest friends is Edward Scott, and we still talk about the battles from years past. And, that's one of those things that carry on. If you buy into the tradition, if you buy into your university and what it means for the program and what it means for the community and the fans, these type of rivalry games are very important, and they will continue on for a lifetime. So, like football, we take it personal. So we want to get there and perform our best.
All right, got about 15 seconds. Who's going to win?
I would have to say my Gamecocks. I think the Tigers are going to be a formidable opponent. I think they do have the edge overall, but I think the Gamecocks will come out and steal a win.
There goes the heart. The heart is talking big. Thank you, Aaron. We appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate you guys, and I look forward to talking to you on Wednesday.
You got it. Aaron Lucas, back in a moment.
This is the Sports Talk Tigers, Gamecocks, and more. Sports Talk across the state on the South Carolina Radio Network.
All right, welcome back in Sports Talk. Thanks again to Aaron Lucas for his insight on USC and Clemson. It's not too late if you have not done it. The state's finest Christmas trees are still on sale all across the state at your local South Carolina Department of Agriculture Farmers Market.
Do they accept Bitcoin? That's my question.
I don't know.
I was thinking the same thing. Corn, we were talking about Clemson's big victory over Florida.
I need to finish the commercial.
Oh, do you? Go ahead.
You know, the sponsor doesn't like when you interrupt the
I
commercial.
thought you asked about the Bitcoin.
No,
I thought that was it.
He did that.
Oh,
Oh, that was a nice non sequitur.
The state's finest Christmas trees are still on sale throughout the state at your local South Carolina Department of Agricultural Farmers Market. Celebrate the holidays, make your home beautiful, and support our farmers today. Trees are available until Christmas Eve.
now you're through.
Go ahead, Pro.
Okay, great. No, I was talking about Clemson's big victory down in Florida. You know, both Florida teams lost
In that same tournament.
because Florida State lost the game before that one to former South Carolina guard Mike Boynton as Oklahoma State upset Florida State 71-70.
a
And
lot of the
right
home
now,
fans.
Charleston Southern is leading Florida State in Tallahassee midway through the first half,
Wow.
15-14. I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Leonard Hamilton not looking good. Not looking happy.
Not happy.
It's
not
hard
happy.
to believe he's been there 17 years, though.
All right, let's get to the basket brawl for it all, y'all. I forgot to put that part in there, too. See, it has a pretty extended. It's the basket brawl for it all, comma, y'all.
It's
Yawn.
You want to write that down, and you can use it in your headline
Never.
game story tomorrow night after it's over.
Braves just released Adrian Gonzalez.
The winner, well, they were going to do that anyway.
Yeah.
They weren't going to keep him. So let's hear from Brad Brownell. He met with the media earlier today. His team riding high, coming off the win over Florida. They've got a win over Ohio State. They're 9-1, knocking on the door of the top 25. And all these wins that you can pocket in November and December can be very useful when you get into that ACC slate and wins become harder to come by.
On to South Carolina is a very difficult turnaround. Short turnaround against a very good team. Extremely physical. Frank just gets his guys to play as hard as anybody that will play all year. Defensively, they really disrupt you and make it difficult to have flow to your offense. Again, great rim protection defensively, physicality, very good offensive posting. Their post players continue to improve and get better. I think their guards are becoming more comfortable. Frank Booker is a fifth-year player that really shoots the ball well from the perimeter, and I think has experience, which has been good for him. Mania, the freshman, I think looks like an outstanding player, a guy that just plays with very good poise. The point guard, Gravett, I think is a guy that is pretty talented. I think he can penetrate, play well off ball screens, makes big winning plays like the other day against Coastal. And then their post guys, they always have, Frank always has four post guys that are big, strong, physical, and tough. And Silva and Coates just continue to improve. Leading scorer, unbelievable rebounders, athleticism at the rim. Just an extremely physical team, tough team to play against. That, one of the things I respect about Frank is his team plays the way that he wants them to play, and also he recruits guys that fit what they do, and they just play to that system, and they're hard to play against. So very, very difficult turnaround for our team, but excited about the opportunity to play another very good SEC opponent in a big game. Questions?
Kind of hit me there watching the game Saturday that after that first bit of recruiting that you had here, some of your recruiting class is small. Some of them, you're losing important guys. This is really the first old team that you had, guys that have played a lot of basketball. Is that?
We were over last year. We had a lot of guys. We didn't maybe have as many guys. We've had some transfers come in, and we've had some transfers go out, and I think that's the nature of really college athletics, especially basketball. now we've even had guys that have played some that have left, but I think some of that is, just, really difficult to build momentum sometimes in your program. And I just feel like this group right here, extremely invested, extremely coachable, which has been really good. Really buying into what we're trying to do. And Dante and Gabe are very well liked. And, when they say something, it doesn't fall on deaf ears. I think those guys are guys that our players respect. They're guys that have had to kind of, wait their turn in some ways in terms of being a leader on the team. They're both hardworking guys, and they're very likable guys. So I think it really helps our locker room that way, just in terms of just really associating and spending time with the young guys. And because of that, I think the identity of this team has been one where I've talked a lot about growth, and I think we're a team that hopefully can continue to improve. And it's a team that wants to learn and wants to do well. And, we've had some good results as a result of that.
All right, Brad Brownell, the Tigers, getting his team ready to face the Gamecocks at Little John, and Frank Martin, burned by the Tigers last year in Columbia. Will, the Gamecocks were confident going in. Tigers came in, played a great game. Elijah Thomas was outstanding, and they got that win in Columbia.
Brownell thinks he had a more experienced team last year going into CLA, but the home game that he'll play this year with Little John, he still has plenty of experience, according to Frank Martin.
Brad and I speak about this. We laugh about this in private. So-called basketball rivalry. Yet no one writes about it, no one talks about it until the day of the game. It's like, does anyone ever give Clemson credit because they play South Carolina? Does anyone ever give South Carolina credit because they play Clemson? Like, when people speak about our non-conference schedule, no one ever says they got to go to an ACC school. No, they don't even acknowledge the fact that we play at Clemson this year when talking about our non-conference schedule. And I know Brad feels the same way about it because he plays South Carolina every single year. That's a shame because he runs a real good basketball program. Brad is one heck of a basketball coach. They've been a good basketball team every single year that I've been in this league. And it's unfortunate. I don't have that answer for you, but it's not. I'm around here for Clemson, South Carolina football and baseball. I know the way that's reported. Our basketball games aren't reported that way. We don't get credit for playing Clemson in basketball the way our baseball team gets for playing Clemson in baseball, or our football team for playing Clemson in football, and vice versa. Brad and I are friends. We talk. We laugh because neither one of us get credit for playing that game. We do. He respects us. I respect him. But I don't know. I don't have that answer for you.
How has their team changed from a year ago?
Fourth-year junior point guard, fourth-year junior two guard, 3-year high-minute-a-game guy all 3 years at the 3, 4-year starter at the 4, fourth-year junior at the center. That's the problem. That's their starting 5. The amount of experience those kids have is ridiculous. They have 3 guards in Sheldon Mitchell, Reed, and Gabe DeVoe that all shoot it, pass it, and they understand what I want from them. Kind of what I had last year in Sindarius, Dwayne, Justin, and PJ. They knew what I wanted, so they have that right now.
And also the fact that Elijah Thomas and Dante Grantham are very strong. It's something he talked about later on. And, I kind of agree with him. This game lacks the kind of juice that both the football and the baseball matchups do. And I wish there was something that we could do or something that could be done to reinvigorate the juice.
Well, let me ask you one quick question. How many calls have we had tonight on the basketball game?
Zero.
Haven't.
Zero.
Now, I know it's holidays and people have got their minds on other things, and the basketball game will be a nice distraction, but nothing. Hey, Frank's right. If we were talking about a 7th-round offensive tackle coming to South Carolina or Clemson or going out, we'd be loaded up.
We got more calls about my insulting of the recruiting stuff on Friday than we did about basketball.
Right, yeah.
All right, back in a moment.
By the way, I went to Publix over the weekend.
Dave Gutschall. Charleston Southern hanging in there with Florida State, 20-20, 5:42 to go in the first half. Coastal Carolina is playing Wake Forest tonight. Anybody seen the score?
Yeah, we'll check.
Check that out, pro. Get back to the to some pigskin. Shrine Bowl played up in Spartanburg over the weekend. It did not go well for the Sandlappers. They lose at 55-24. It was close early as the teams exchanged touchdowns, and Sandlappers trailed 14-12. They missed a kicked extra point, then they missed a 2-point conversion, but then kickoff return of 92 yards by Diami Brown, a 1-yard touchdown run by Stefan, a 2-yard run by Ricky Person Jr., who's going to NC State, and he was great. 180 rushing yards. He looked great. 35-12, and the Sandlappers really couldn't get back into it from there. They lose it for the third straight time. Here is head coach Dave Gutschall talking to us about the defeat after the game.
Well, yeah, one thing we couldn't tackle, that was pretty obvious. And they really up front, they whooped us, and so we had to really start throwing the ball around. And it's not really the way we wanted to play, but it was a bad day. It was a bad day.
How quickly did you guys have to get out of the offense that you really wanted to try to run?
Really in the first quarter, and of course Joyner got banged up quickly, and we was hoping that him being like another running back in the backfield would be able to do it, but we didn't have any place for him to run. So really, and we were worried about that because they're huge up front compared to us, and that was the thing we worried about all week.
Special teams a mess too.
Special teams was terrible tonight. That was or this afternoon. So it's hard to think of too many good things that we did, and but the kids, some of them kept playing, and we were proud of that.
Did you lose some of them? Did some of them kind of throw it in?
Well, we lost a couple at halftime. One was hurt. The carry-on was hurt. His shoulder had been bothering him all year long. Guy hit on it, and we were banged up all week. And when things aren't going good, it's easy. You know what I'm saying?
Did you think some of the guys cashed it in on you?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. It's hard to motivate yourself to play when it seems like everything's going wrong. But no, I was really proud of some of them. They really, there's no doubt that Bryce Thompson and Kendrick are outstanding players, and they wanted to play another quarter. I mean, they just love playing football.
It's 3 in a row for the Tar Heels now in the series. Does South Carolina have to do anything different to turn this thing back around, or is it just the way things went this year?
Well, I don't know that we could have worked any harder picking a football team. It was one of those things. It was a tough year on linemen, trying to find linemen, especially what they were choosing. And we did the best we could. We thought we would be able to out-quick them, but couldn't do it.
All right, Dave Gutschall, coach of the Shrine Bowl team. We salute everybody in the Shrine Bowl. They announced over $2 million raised this year for the children's hospitals. That's the big story. And nice crowd, beautiful day, beautiful setting at Wofford. Jackie Hayes announced as the head coach of the Sandlappers for next year. And go get them next year, Sandlappers. Now Clemson, Tigers continuing with their practice sessions. And you'll be up there Wednesday. You're going up to the basketball game tomorrow night.
I'll be there.
Staying over for the media session Wednesday.
And I'll make sure to have a few cold ones on College Ave for you.
Why do you
Tuesday.
always have to talk about two things? Food and getting drunk.
It's not true.
Brian, am I right? He always talks. Anytime he goes on a trip somewhere, I'll be sure to have a couple of them for you, Phil.
He's just mellowing out. He didn't say anything about getting.
How about do some work? Can you go up there and promise to do some work?
Have I never gone somewhere and provided the requisite amount of work? Not only requisite, above and beyond the Call of Duty?
I will reserve comment.
Man, you are rough. Wake Forest and Coastal, by the way, tied at 29. Coastal just ended a 7-0 run by the Demon Deacons. They're tied at 29 with 3:17 to play in the first half. Information you didn't have. Dabo Sweeney talked about the Alabama changes that they've made to their personnel when it comes to their defending of the spread option running quarterbacks. And also, Dabo talked about the widening of his coaching tree.
Yeah, just change, just personnel. I mean, I think they recruited some different type of guys, and then just that nickel Sam position. That's kind of like you see guys like what we got. We'll play a lot of nickel. They play a lot of nickel, just because of the style of play. Used to they were a heavy, Sam backer type of a guy. Just I think personnel. You look at some of these guys that they've recruited in there coming off the edge. And then also how they coach the ends, how they coach the outside backers, technique, just simply because of more knowledge of spread offenses and things like that. That's probably the biggest thing. And then what they see in their league has forced that. It's not just lining up and people running the ball anymore. So you got to be able to defend running quarterbacks. So I think they've recruited a lot of DBs and more athletic guys.
Now that exams are over and you get these guys full time, what is your schedule like for the next 10 days or so, right up until Christmas?
We'll be back out here tomorrow, and so yesterday and today and tomorrow, 3 physical days. We had some live work yesterday, some live work today, some more live work tomorrow. So 3 really tough days. Sunday we'll back off and just have meetings. Then we're gonna come back Monday and have a community service day, meetings and walkthrough. So really kind of structured practice that way. 3 tough days in a row: Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, Monday more mental, and slow it down a little bit, and then ramp it back up Tuesday and Wednesday, a couple of physical days, and then next Thursday's graduation, which is also a week later. So everything's just kind of totally different schedule for us. But so our graduates will be off next Thursday, and then we'll come back in on Friday the 22nd. And that'll be kind of our like a normal game week Thursday practice for us. Kind of plan them, try to have the game plan done, ready to go if we need to go play by next Friday the 22nd. And then we're going to take a few days off, and guys will come back here on the 26th, and we'll practice here on the 27th. Kind of have our Monday type practice, fly to New Orleans, and have a normal game week there. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday prep there.
Napier just named head coach.
Did he get it? Yeah. Oh, that's great.
So I take you pretty happy for him.
Absolutely, yeah. Tim had asked me for a quote earlier, and I didn't know if it was public or not, but I'm really happy for him, man. I've got 2 branches now. 2 branches. Proud of Billy, man. Billy, he did a great job for us, and he's a bright young coach. I'm just proud of what he's gone out and done, and to get that opportunity is a big step for him, and I'm sure he's excited to put a good staff together and go to work.
It's got to feel kind of cool. You're coaching Tree, just getting bigger.
It's monstrous. Yeah, no, that's great. That's great.
Oh, Lord. Okay, that's Dabo Swinney from Friday. That was not from today, obviously, but that's the most recent opportunity we've had to hear from Dabo. By the way, one more player. I did not do a good job with my complete list here. One more player for Clemson who will announce Wednesday is Jackson Carman, offensive lineman from Fairfield, Ohio. Clemson, Ohio State, Southern Cal. I don't have a time for his signing yet. I haven't seen a time for that, but that's another one to keep an eye on. Jackson Carman from Fairfield, Ohio. So you want to make some here you go, Will and Pro. You two debate. I'm going to give you the name. You tell me where you think they're going.
Oh, okay.
Jackson Carman.
What's the choices?
Clemson, Ohio State, Southern Cal.
Ohio State.
This is supposed to be fast-paced.
Clemson.
Ohio State.
Clemson.
Clemson.
Why not?
Rosando Lewis.
Choices. We need a choice. We don't have it in front of us,
Well,
man.
how are you supposed to sound knowledgeable if I have to tell you? USC, Florida
Since he
State.
took the last visit, I say to South Carolina.
Yeah, that's I can.
Jovan Gwynn, USC or NC State?
NC State.
Lynn J. Dixon, NC State? No, you're going to throw.
You're asking me to guess, Corn.
Lynn J. Dixon, Clemson, Oklahoma State. Quick.
Okie State.
God, you people are terrible.
straight back. Goes a crossing route. McCaffrey, a touchdown. That's big time, right in the dead middle of the field. Rodgers eviscerated at the 27.
Oh, my goodness. He got lost.
And he whips a pass. End zone circus catch over to Packers. No. Out of the back of the end zone, incomplete.
After review, the run was down by contact in the end zone. It is a touchdown.
Wow.
Well, first of all, I want you to tell Eugene I don't appreciate him taking personal satisfaction in calling good plays against his former team. That's number one, Mick Mixon. But number two, good to have you with us as always. You've been around a long time with these Panthers. Have you ever had maybe, I don't want to put words in your mouth, you tell me what the last 48 hours have been like for you as an employee of this organization.
Gosh, Corn, bittersweet in a way. I mean, the Packer win after the Panthers did so many good things, but still almost fiddled around and lost it was nasty. I mean, yeah. Mason Crosby hit a great ball.
We have a great onside kicker.
That's a 1 in 20 ball that squirted, bounced back toward the kickoff coverage team. You know, McCaffrey probably, if he could do it again, he'd probably try to take it on the prior hop. And it went low and under him. But anyway, and then get home last night all happy, and you beat the Packers. And then the release that announces that Mr. Richardson has decided to put the team up for sale when the season is over. This, though, has to be said, Corn. Anybody that works for the Panthers knows, and Mark Richardson, Jerry Richardson's son, said as much at a speech at Clemson some months back.
Mm-hmm.
The family plan was to sell the team upon Mr. Richardson's death. Hopefully that will not be for a long time. Mr. Richardson's 81, had a heart transplant 8-9 years ago. But so it's not like this, oh my God, how could he do it? Bombshell from out of the blue. It was expected, just later rather than sooner.
Is there, and we're not going to go into anything that, you're not comfortable talking about as an employee of the organization, but I think, even Coach Rivera talked about it today, and that is his comment was something like, I hope the franchise doesn't move. Is there real concern that the new buyer might take it out of Charlotte?
I guess anything's possible, but I wouldn't think so. This is an amazing city with a lot of millennials. Plus, our situation, Corn, is unique. The Panthers own the stadium. So if you buy the Panthers, you buy the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you do that and then move to another city where you can't take the stadium with you? And I think I just can't. I mean, LA got their team. I just don't know where you would really go. I think the NFL wants, I don't know this, I'm just speculating. I'm just one guy. I don't speak for the team, but it seems to me as though the NFL, in the interest of regional balance and the NFC South, what a great division that's been, they would want the Panthers to remain right where we are.
Yeah, the latest valuation from Forbes valued the Carolina Panthers at $2.3 billion, and they could certainly go for a lot more than that, especially when you throw the stadium in there. The unfortunate news was not limited to off-the-field stuff. On the field, Thomas Davis will serve a 2-game suspension pending appeal. Mick, just your thoughts on the hit? It seemed like a very out-of-character move from a guy who at least screams professional on the field from Thomas Davis.
Yeah, I'm not excusing TD. If you look at it slow motion, it looks bad. It looks like he kind of searchlighted him and went head to head. But then when you watch it in real time, your naked eye view of the play, TD is just trying to make a block. He should have gone in lower. He's trying to help spring Colin Jones for the return. And there is no classier ambassador for the Carolina Panthers in particular, and the NFL in general, than Thomas Davis. He doesn't have a mean-spirited bone in his body. So he felt horrible afterward, and I don't know whether the Panthers will appeal the suspension. It'd be great if it got reduced to 1 game.
But, you looked at the game, and I tell you what, Aaron Rodgers, it looked like, you hate to pull out the cliche, but the spirit was willing, but the flesh was weak. If he had one more snap in that wrist, some of those passes looked dangerously close to being touchdowns.
I'd hate to see Aaron Rodgers if he wasn't a little rusty. I thought he was going to play great pro. I really did. I thought he's going to be fresh. He can't wait. He's been practicing for a couple weeks, medically cleared to play, and he just makes the game look so much easier than it really is. He almost looks like he's playing a different game at times at a different pace and with more knowledge than everybody else out on the field. But there was a unifying diagnosis to his interceptions, and those were underthrows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, arm strength just didn't look like it was normal for him. So look, I mean, we lose, you win. Congratulations! I tip my hat.
Man, you are sore.
Well, I'm a Packer fan. Okay, I live and die and breathe the Packers.
It was better after the Jet loss. Rather.
But you know, would you agree with me that considering we have Rodgers back and we're healthy and we're 7-7, and if we win our next 2 games, we should get at least an at-large bid to the playoffs, kind of like the college football.
Get in the play-in game. Yeah, that'd be.
Can we be at large?
Recommend. I thought about it tonight, Corn. I was doing my upper deck stadium stair run prior to Panther Talk and getting ready for Panther Talk, and of course all the cups and the nacho cheese sauce and the peanut shells, and I saw a lone Packer toboggan.
Oh.
Green Bay green with the G on the side. I actually picked it up and I put it in my sweatshirt pouch, but then I thought, no, this Corn, you know, he's funny about hats that have been on other people's heads, but I was going to send it down to you.
Send it. I'll wash it.
Do you own a cheese head, Corn?
I don't have an actual cheese head. I told you I do have a jersey.
Mark Shimura.
Representing Mark Shimura, yes.
It's
a real jersey.
With all the great history that team has had.
Why that guy?
Somebody gave it to me one time.
Speaking of tight ends, Greg Olsen looked like
well, he really did.
He was a godsend yesterday.
Oh, my golly, yeah. I mean, my favorite part of the game was Olsen hollering at Coach Rivera not to throw the challenge flag on the Demir Bird touchdown. He's yelling at him. I saw the play. Don't waste a timeout. And Coach Rivera said, Greg, whose team are you on right now? Are you on the Packers team or on our team?
Yeah, there were a couple of funny things. That and then the first touchdown where Newton and the Packers linebacker Clay Matthews are talking back and forth with one another. Let me say this though about Demir Bird, Mick. He's emerging as a go-to guy. Apparently, there's a lot of confidence growing between Newton and him.
I think so. Yeah, and Demir's got the 42-inch vertical leap. He ran a 10.3 meters in high school. I mean, he can pick him up and put him down. And his route running is good. He was the star of the preseason and was poised to be splashy all year before he got his arm hurt.
Who's on your show tonight?
Colin Jones. Colin Jones, number 42, out of Texas Christian University. Plus, Coach Rivera will stop by as well.
You have Buccaneers on a short week next week. Probably trying to play a little spoiler. Your thoughts on them coming in on Christmas Eve?
All I could think of was San Francisco, Tennessee. I thought, you know, the Titans went west thinking this team's only won a couple of games. We're going to beat this team, solidify our playoff spot, and it didn't turn out that way. Panthers got to avoid that.
Okay, Mick, we thank you so much. Have a great rest of your week, a great holiday. We won't be here next Monday, of course, and neither will you,
okay.
But we'll dial you up next Tuesday, perhaps.
Sounds great. Look forward to it, Corn.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. The best to you and your family.
You too, brother.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you so much. The voice of the Panthers, Mick Mixon. You can catch his show across the Carolinas on Panther Network stations coming up here in just a little bit.
Objectively, I was better after the Panther victory over the Jets than you were over the Panther victory.
Well, you don't love the Jets as much as I love the Packers.
I beg to differ.
No, it's not even close.
I beg to differ.
It's not even close. You can't love your teams more than I love mine.
You should see the amount of money, time, sweat, and tears.
Money. It's not about money.
Time, sweat, and tears I've built into that team, and suffering.
First thing you said was money. That eliminates you right there.
That's not true.
It's not about money. It's about love and passion.
Show me the money.
And I hate losing. That'll do it. Y'all have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night here on Sports Talk.